There are almost as many secrets inside of Elden Ring as there are paedophiles inside the US government, which, as you might know, is a very hard feat to accomplish. In today's video, we're going to talk about 8 of those secrets. The final one is quite bonkers. We're really close to 20,000 subscribers, and I'm trying to reach it by the end of this year. If you'd like to help, and if you enjoy the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribe. Did you know that the Erd tree spans all over the map? Not only is it located inside of Lindale and the Deeproot Depths, it is everywhere. This can be seen in Grace. If you go to the sites of Grace inside of Smithbox and take away the golden part, you can see that the sites of Grace are made from roots. Roots that, considering the presence of Grace, are likely from the Erd tree. Elden Ring shares a lot of similarity to Norse mythology. One example is Marika being hung from a godly tree. Inside of Norse mythology, Odin is hung also from a godly tree and gains the power of runes. Marika also has the power of runes. Another similarity to Norse mythology that is even more important is Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil is the tree of life. It spans all over the realms. The Erd tree spans all over the lands between. The connection is definitely there, and the presence of these roots at the site of Grace further proves this. Inside of the Lands of Shadow, you might have seen this structure. It is fucking massive, and behind it is the Skadu Chalice. I don't want to focus on the Skadu Chalice though. I want to focus on the big fuck off structure, because what is it? What you may not know is it's the base for Messmer's symbol. If you look at it in the right direction, it looks very similar to what ancient civilizations used to do. A great example is Stonehenge. What these ancient civilizations used to do is they'd build structures, and these structures had the purpose to view certain celestial events. For example, a summer solstice. Only when it reaches a certain point does it shine through the hole. The appearance of this massive structure lines up with that, and when you realise the top has a semicircle, it becomes even more apparent. It's likely this is the design of this big fuck off structure. When the conditions are met for either the sun or the moon, it would line up perfectly with this location. The icing on the top though that suggests this is the base for Messmer's symbol is the sap from the Skadu tree. It's coincidentally going down the middle of this structure. There is also a line going down the middle of Messmer's symbol. There is a piece of cut content that still has implications for base game Elden Ring. This piece of cut content quite literally has one video talking about it on all of YouTube. Gilbert's quest was cut from the final release. However, remains of his quest line, just like Kale's, can be found in the game files. His quest line centres around the god of vengeance. If you swear an oath of vengeance upon someone, then he will be its fist. He will enact vengeance for those that cannot. Unfortunately, information about the God of Vengeance is very limited, as not every part of the questline could be recovered. However, there are mentions of vengeance and the oaths that are talked about inside of Gilbert's questline inside of Elden Ring. For example, the braided cord robe. It says, the braided cord ties together the vow of the revenger with the victim's grudges. This is worn by the Hornsent, who is in a quest for vengeance against Messmer for all that he did against the Hornsent. Another item description that talks about this is the grafted blade greatsword. Its skill is the oath of vengeance. Swear an oath upon the greatsword to avenge the clan. And finally, Gilbert himself. He shares the same model as Jerrin. Both Jerrin and Gilbert are soldiers of Radhn. Jerrin's questline seems to focus around revenge against Selene. At the end of the questline, he says, "You've helped me fulfill an old promise. Promise and oath go hand in hand." These are all left behind remnants of an old quest I would have loved to have seen. We've all seen the trees inside of Farum Azula. What you might not have noticed though, is the trees inside of Farum Azula share a striking similarity to the weirwoods out of A Song of Ice and Fire. George R.R. Martin helped to create the backstory before the Shattering. Considering this, it's only fitting that a reference to his work would find its way into Elden Ring. I personally absolutely love this detail. The churches of Marika that are found both in the DLC and base game are churches, But they aren't just called churches for shits and giggles. If you go up into the sky and look down, they have the classic design of churches, that being in the shape of a cross. The next secret goes hand in hand with churches, more specifically the Church of the Crusade. The Church of the Crusade is located inside a shadow of the Erdtree. It is also the most intact church we find in all of the DLC. However, the interesting part comes from what's on the floor. The tiles show the symbol of the Dragon Empire. All throughout base game there is something called the Gold Road. The Gold Road all holds the same symbol, that of the Empire of the Dragons. If you want to know more about the Gold Road, I highly recommend watching this video by Nameless Singer. The presence of these tiles inside the shadow of the Erdtree implies a connection between the Crusade and that of the Dragon Empire. We know these churches were created as the Crusade was happening, hence the title of Church of the Crusade. The statue of Marika in there has her head cut off, just like every other statue inside of the Lands of Shadow. After the followers of Messmer became disillusioned with that of Marika, the Dragon Empire would have been there for them to turn to, and I believe that is what happened, leading to the tiles that we find right here. If you've been tatting around inside the Eternal Cities, you've seen these big ass blokes sitting on these big ass chairs. However, if you look up in the one inside the Dragonkin Soldier boss fight, you'll see there is a tunnel. This tunnel leads directly up into Liurnia, into the same area where these John Elden Ring statues are. These figures have been steeped in mystery and it's really unknown where exactly they came from. However, the fact there is a tunnel right above suggests this one at least came from the surface. What their past and history was though, it's really up to interpretation. The final secret is what I was edging you with at the start of the video, and it has to do with the map of Babylon. If you go to the underground of Elden Ring, you'll find a John Elden Ring statue. However, the important part comes from what's at his feet. Of course, Miyazaki had to put the important information by feet. At his feet is a one-to-one replica of the Babylonian map of the world, and located on this map is Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is known as the land between rivers. It is wedged between the river Euphrates and the river Tigris. The land inside of Elden Ring is called the Lands Between. It is also separated by a body of water on both sides, just like Mesopotamia. Not only is it a cool reference, the fact that Mesopotamia is called the land between rivers and the lands between is well called the lands between, it also allows us to get an understanding of where the name came from, as Mesopotamia was definitely on the mind of From Software and Miyazaki. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel and lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. Without any further ado daddling, please friends, don't you dare go hollow, and may you find your worth in the waking world. See you in the next one, and goodbye.